Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and this time I'll be playing Bioshock 1 Remastered. I have played this game. Actually, I've played Bioshock back when it was first released, and I rather enjoyed it. I think it's a very good game, all things considered, and its main... some of its main plot points are kind of legendary, I would say, as far as stories in video games go. So I have a lot of fond memories of this game, and you know, I thought it would be fun to return and see how I'm going to feel playing it after however many years it has been since the release. However, I will also try to provide like additional context or commentary where I can on the inspirations behind this game and the like references contained within, because this game, well, it's interesting because it is kind of touted as a critique of objectivism and of Ayn Rand. But I personally happen to think that if it was intended as a critique of objectivism as a philosophy, then it doesn't necessarily do that great of a job in that regard. And I will try to detail why do I think that as the sort of particular story points in the game crop up. I will also probably I'm planning to do a whole video essay of sorts detailing my position about how exactly this game fails as a critique of objectivism. But regardless of whether you consider it such or not, it has a lot of direct references to Ayn Rand's work, and even down to particular character names and all that. So I will try to point that out when I spot it. Obviously, this is unscripted, and I'm just going to do it on the fly, so it's probably not going to be that comprehensive. But as I said, I am planning to do, after I finish the game, I am planning on doing a video essay on Bioshock 1 and on its connections to objectivism and to Ayn Rand's philosophical standpoints, and how exactly does it fare as a critique or as a polemic with Ayn Rand. Because as I said, I personally happen to think it isn't that great, and it's more, I happen to read Bioshock more as a statement on human nature itself, rather than necessarily just a pinpointed critique of objectivism specifically. But that's enough of inane rambling for the introduction. I will be checking all of the director's commentary that I find in the game that is provided with the remastered edition, because, as I said, I have played this game before, and it's going to be a nice addition to see those additional features that have been provided with the remaster. I will also be checking the museum at the end of the game. As far as I understand, it's like an additional level that shows you some of the cut content and some of the unrealized ideas that didn't actually make it into the final game. So that might be interesting as well after I finish it and refresh it in my memory to sort of confront it with its earlier stages. But without further ado, let's actually start a new game. I will be playing on hard, because I consider myself a bit too much of a wimp for Survivor. It would be rather frustrating to watch, I think, because you will quickly discover, if you are new to my channel, you will quickly discover that I am somewhat of a paradox, because I enjoy playing on harder difficulties in games, but that doesn't necessarily translate to me being good at games. In fact, I would say I'm mediocre or even bad I don't have that great of a hand-eye coordination or reflexes, so prepare yourself for some failure. But I guess that might have a comedic aspect to it as well, and I will try to make up for it, by providing some interesting commentary on the game, hopefully. So yeah, I'm going to choose hard. I think it's going to be a challenge, but maybe not impossible. I have played a lot of shooters. I'm just again, the fact that I've played a lot of shooters doesn't necessarily translate to me being good at shooters. But let's begin.
They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right. Okay, so let us get out of the plane crash site, and the first thing that sort of piques my interest is the fact that this lighthouse does not seem to make that much sense when you, especially with its rather grandiose design. It does not seem to make that much sense when you consider the actual purpose behind Rapture. Well, spoiler, there's a city below the lighthouse, if you didn't know that already. To my knowledge, it isn't ever explained within the games themselves how do they keep it hidden? How do they make sure that no ships traverse these waters? Because obviously that's very noticeable. It is literally a lighthouse. It has a light on top, and also the whole existence of this plane flying over this space is also kind of problematic. Although explaining that in detail would get into some huge spoilers, so I will return to that topic later on once the game gets to a point where it's no longer a spoiler. But for all intents and purposes, it was a commercial flight flying over this location. So how do they make sure that no other planes fly over this place and actually notice that? That is something to consider. So let's enter. And you are met with this rather contradictory sign. It always seemed so to me, because it says no gods or kings, only men. But then you have this giant golden statue of a man eyeing you somewhat disapprovingly, which seems to invoke to me an image of a king or even a god, you know. This message seems to be somewhat contradictory to me, as is going to be sort of developed throughout the game, and I think it is actually supposed to look like that, and it is supposed to tell you something about that man, whom you will come to know quite well by the end of the game. There is also a quote by him. In what country is there a place for people like me? Says Andrew Ryan. Now, Andrew Ryan is, as a character as a whole, sort of based, even down to his history, personal history, on Ayn Rand herself. Which, again, I will elaborate more on when the actual plot points regarding Andrew Ryan's history come up. But for now, it is worth noting that his very name seems to be somewhat inspired by Ayn Rand's name. It is almost an anagram, I believe. It has a few additional letters, but because R-E-U are the additional letters, but you can make Ayn and then Rand out of this. So I do believe it's not coincidental. There was another banner here, but it's currently destroyed. You cannot read that. It used to say something about a parasite who asks something. So let's continue onwards. You have those discs saying science, industry, and then art. So basically, might say something here as well. Nope, it's just like a coat of arms for Rapture itself. Okay. So let's get into this bathysphere, which always was also questionable to me whenever I played this game. I'm not sure if I would have so readily done that as a protagonist of this game. You'd think, somebody would eventually come looking for the missing plane, so maybe it would be easier or better to stay on the top. But well, then the whole game wouldn't happen, so, there is also that.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture. Where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, Rapture can become your city as well.
Get over there and be quick about it. The Splicers are
Now, I've always loved, since the first time I played this game all those years ago, I loved the opening sequence with the reveal of Rapture. It's really sort of mind-blowing when you witness it for the first time, especially with the music swelling in the background. And it's very intriguing. You are when you see that, the panel, the view of the city and its sort of splendor from the outside. You are very intrigued and very interested to actually go and explore it, or at least so. At least it is so in my case. So about Atlas, I will go back to him.
We're gonna need to draw her out of hiding, but you're gonna have to trust me.
I will go back to him later, obviously, because he's a very important, well, he's one of the main characters in the game, and there's a lot of twists and turns connected with him, so I will comment more on that when the actual moments in-game come. But for now, let me just say that his very name is, again, a rather obvious reference to the works of Ayn Rand, because one of her most well-known books is Atlas Shrugged, which in itself serves as a sort of basis for the general idea behind this game. And also, speaking of Atlas, I do believe that those statues of this particular design that you see throughout Rapture in the game are actually based on a real-life statue of Atlas that's somewhere in the USA, I believe. I am going to find it and put a link in the description, but again, that's yet another sort of more roundabout connection to Atlas Shrugged and Ayn Rand. So let's actually explore this bathysphere station over here. There's a VitaChamber, which I have disabled because this game, this is one of the elements I don't really like, neither from a gameplay standpoint nor from a story standpoint. Because in the original Bioshock, you really cannot die, because if you are killed, the VitaChamber brings you back, and the only penalty you suffer is the fact that all of the enemies are brought back as well. But all of the things that you've collected, all of the objectives that you've completed, everything, stays as if you didn't die. So in the remaster, there is an option to disable the VitaChambers, which makes it so that if you die, you simply have to reload. You have to reload an earlier save, as in a traditional shooter. So I am using this option. I have disabled the VitaChambers. They also play a rather important part in the story of the game. There is an actual explanation for explanation of sorts. There is an attempt at explaining, their role and what are they doing and how do they work? Not so much, but why do they work? So I will comment more on that when the game actually comments on it. But you can also get some additional views of the city, bistro, news. Some tunnels, and you can also get some signs. Rapture is dead. We're not your property. Let it end. Let us ascend. Ryan doesn't own us. Attention, all bathysphere travel is now denied. On orders of Andrew Ryan, Ryan Industries. So what's funny about those signs, to me at least, I'm not sure if you will find it funny as well, is the way they were made. You can see, I'm not sure how to translate it to English, but it's like like it's a specific way. It's like a technical, very technical way of writing with those lines that make sure that all of the lines are straight, in the letters and all that. It's like, I believe it was used in the past in technical documentation before the advancement of actual, computers. We used to actually do writing like this in school. And I find it hilarious that the people of Rapture, even when they were gearing for a protest, I guess their innate sense of perfectionism has compelled them to make sure that their signs are, that the letters are symmetrical and, all the lines are straight and all that. Because you can see the markings in pencil, the lines that actually make sure that the letters are of a correct shape. So I do find it hilarious. I'm not sure if it's only me, but obviously you can already sort of get from this place that something has gone horribly wrong, and people were trying to get out, but they were denied, as it says here. And there's another sign over there that says, "The great chain is guided by our hand," which gets elaborated on a little bit later. For now, you're not quite sure what the great chain is. So let's continue. As you can see, the Rapture Transit Authority says,
Just a bit further. How do you like that, mister? Now, would you kindly find a crowbar or something? Bloody Splicer sealed Johnny in before they... Goddamn Splicers.
as you can see, all of the bathysphere connections are cancelled. More protest signs, but they all say the same thing I've already read, so there's no point in dwelling on them. And soon we will encounter our first enemy. Which the enemies are really well done in Bioshock, I would say. Not necessarily from a... I'm not necessarily talking about a gameplay perspective, because as I said, I kind of suck at games, so I'm not the best person to really make to really form opinions on that, because I'm probably going to die like a loser anyway, regardless of how sophisticated or unsophisticated the AI is. But what I'm talking about, I think the enemies are well done from a narrative standpoint, because they have rather distinct, almost like personalities. They have different voiceovers, and they have different looks, and it all tells you something about who those people used to be, and the way they behave is also very well done. Like the movements are kind of jittery and weird, which is going to be demonstrated soon. But first, for discriminating tastes, Oxford Club cigarettes, Rapture radio, Nicotime, what? Tea off for flavor? I have no idea what that actually means. But that may be because I'm not a native speaker of English.
I was just getting warmed up!
Well, that didn't go very well, as you could see. Oh boy, what a floor show every night. Okay. Apparently, smart daddies get spliced at the garden, which I will soon enough. But first, let's explore this lobby area a little bit, because there's a bit of junk food that I can gobble up like a horrifying hobo of the streets, which it has been lying here for months at the very least, as evidenced by the timeline of the game. But apparently the protagonist doesn't really care, and it restores my health if I gobble up food from the garbage, so I will do that. Now, there is a plaque here. Rapture, November the 5th, 1946. One man's vision, mankind's salvation. So this commemorates the founding of Rapture. You can also get some more view out the window. You can also see the luggage from the plane crash slowly falling down, and also Kashmir Restaurant is going to be an actual location we're going to visit in the game, and more of those Atlas statues, well, Atlas inspired statues. Okay, so let's actually go forward towards the Gatherer's Garden. No gods or kings, only men. And right here, the great chain is guided. The great chain of industry ties and unites us. Okay, so it's a bit of a different banner than the one before. And here, pick your plasmid and evolve. The wondrous world of Rapture, and you can see people displaying all sorts of, for what looks at face value like supernatural abilities. You have a guy telekinetically controlling a brick, you have a woman powering up a light bulb, a woman doing barbecue with her hands. I guess it's not a barbecue, she's holding a frying pan, and then this guy is lifting a ton of bricks. So it says plasmids right here, and also some advertisements for plasmids. Evolution in a Bottle, plasmids by Ryan Industries, and teleportation. Okay, that's another element of the game that I find like very questionable, because you're going to see what getting spliced involves soon enough, and it's very weird for me that the protagonist just does it without any actual prompt to do it. It's not something I would have done, for sure. Light them up, security bullseye. So another advertisement for a plasmid, and then you have teleportation. Get there in a hurry. Okay, so let's actually get spliced and see what that entails.
This little fish looks like he just had his cherry popped. Wonder if he's still got some Adam on him. Hear that? Let's buck. Weak! You're a weak chopper. This little fish ain't worth towing it with no big daddy. Yellow! Always have been. You'll be no better off with Metal Daddy, little fish. See you floating from right.
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel. I can see light coming from his belly. Wait a minute, he's still breathing. It's all right. I know he'll be an angel soon.
but there's nothing like a fistful of lightning now, is there?
Yeah, so I certainly wouldn't job strange syringes full of goo I found in a random place I didn't know existed into my arm, especially without any prompt to actually do that. So that was rather questionable to me. But I again feel that the name Gatherer's Garden and the names of the resources used to power those abilities, which are Adam and Eve, are all very sort of tongue-in-cheek, because obviously that's a reference to the Gatherer's Garden. It's a reference to the Garden of Eden, I believe. You know, the people of the people of Rapture sort of they made this analogy to getting spliced as an act of picking a fruit from the tree of knowing, choosing, so basically rebelling against God, in whom most of them don't believe, as you will come to learn throughout the game. Basically forging your own destiny with your own hands, and getting a prize, but I feel like it's sort of tongue-in-cheek, because it might be meant to imply out of universe, as an information for the player, that it was something they were not actually meant to do. It's a forbidden fruit for a reason, and obviously Adam and Eve, if you go with the Bible, they were the first sinners, right? They have damned the entire human race because they picked the tree, the fruit from the tree of knowing, of knowing good and evil, against the orders from God. They have picked the forbidden fruit, and I believe the game might be trying to tell you that the people of Rapture have done the same. Welcome to the Rapture. What? Opportunity awaits. Okay, so you can use the electrical plasmid to open doors. It's something to look for. Those kinds of sparks. And here comes the plane from the beginning of the game, crushing into the tunnel right here. I really like how water looks in this game, which is, good to say, because it's like it's a very major part of the game. There's a lot of it, but I think it's, pleasant to look at, all of the leaks and all that. You can also see some fish, which are strangely sort of just almost, well, they are not standing, are they? They are swimming in place, which is a bit weird, but then again, I'm not an expert on fish behavior, so maybe that's totally reasonable of them. There's a dead cat, for whatever reason. Now, it actually inflicts critical damage if you do that. If you hit an enemy that has previously been shocked, it doesn't just add the damage from the plasmid to the damage from the wrench. It actually multiplies it. So that's a very powerful tactic and very useful. I think there's one more coming.
Leave me alone! No!
Okay, I will use a medkit. Because you can only carry 9 medkits anyway. Although I'm only at 4 now, so you know, I probably shouldn't be saying that like it matters. For now, discerning tastes, Rapture radio. I read all of that already.
I didn't touch her. Yeah, I know what. That's all you got.
There's no actual need to fight him, I think, because I'm pretty sure he burns to death if you run around for long enough. There are also some like Rapture virtues on the banners or something, because it says here individuality, liberty, ascendancy, creativity, independence, and commerce. Okay, so with that viewed, Excelsior, elevator repair. Now I do believe Excelsior means to rise higher, to rise higher in Latin, which is a very sort of apt name for an elevator repair company. With that being said, let's actually use one of the elevators that work.
Listen, I've got a family. I need to get them out of here. But the Splicers have cut me off from them. If you can reach them in Neptune's bounty, then maybe, just maybe. I know you must feel like the unluckiest man in the world right now. But you're the only hope I'll ever see my wife and child again. Go to Neptune's bounty. Find my family, please.
Now, here you can see a depiction of the Great Chain. The Great Chain is guided by our hand. It's an interesting sort of interesting thing, the Great Chain, because it's like a variant on the invisible hand of the market. It is believed by Andrew Ryan that the Great Chain is like a link of commerce and of commercial agreements and of combined efforts of all the individuals that strive to accomplish something in Rapture. But it's very interesting to me, and again, it seems sort of telling that they specifically used a chain as a symbol of that, because a chain does not have that great of an association in most people's minds. I believe, a chain is something that imprisons you. It's something that binds you, but in a chain is not a positive bond. It's something that limits you and something that limits your freedom, which is interesting because at face value, the people of Rapture and Andrew Ryan himself were all about personal freedom. So it's interesting for them to choose a great chain as a symbol of their, of their efforts. And you may also have noted during the cutscene with the plasmids that the protagonist bears tattoos of a chain on both of his hands, which is, again, tied to a very important plot point later on in the game. But I'm not going to talk about it for now, because obviously it's a huge spoiler. There's a sort of memorial dedicated to one Winston Hoffner in loving memory of. I have no idea who that guy is, and I don't think it's ever elaborated on, but his photo actually appears a couple of times throughout the game, so he must have been someone of importance and prominence. Now you can see this woman with a stroller, and you might be excused to think at first that she's trying to soothe her baby or something, but as you will soon learn, it's not at all what's happening here, because it's actually a gun.
Plasmid's chain.
Now, you can see here, Rapture Masquerade Ball, 1959, with a very characteristic design of a mask, which some of the enemies are actually wearing, this kind of a mask. And this date is obviously rather important, as you will soon discover inside the Kashmir restaurant. It is a very important date in the timeline of this game, and I do believe in some ways this Masquerade Ball is used as an explanation for some of the designs of the enemies, and specifically for the fact that a lot of them are wearing, masquerade masks. But I am going to actually explore that next time, because I believe this first episode was long enough. So I'm going to save here and end it for now. That's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!